Happy New Year, everyone. I'm so excited today to bring you this TN. You know, my new obsession is these traveler notebooks that I made with all Dollar Tree products. Everything that I used here is from the Dollar Tree. So let's get started with this. So first things first, I'm going to show you all of the items that I bought that I'm going to use to make this. First thing is these glue sticks. I don't think I use these at all, but I'm showing you things that you can use. So the glue sticks, the tape runner, I love this tape runner. I absolutely adore it. The Aleene's tacky glue, and this pom-pom that I got. You know, I love my little dangles on the side of my traveler's notebooks. These are the set of 3 composition books. I just opened them, but it is a set of 3 at the Dollar Tree. I'm sure you've seen them before. You can also find them at Walmart, I heard. A pouch of hair elastics. This is one of the 2-pack chopping mats. I'm going to use this for the outside. It actually is very strong. And then here I have some gift bags. This is totally up to you. I'm using the gift bags as a pattern paper. And I also picked up this thing of calendars, but I didn't use that in this project. I will be using it in a project later on this week. But if you don't have any pattern paper, go to the Dollar Tree and pick yourself up some of these gift bags. You can find some really pretty patterns. So I'm going to be taking this chopping mat and I'm going to be cutting it down to size. I'm going to measure it out. I do use my paper cutter on this one, but you don't need a paper cutter. Get your ruler out. Get your pen out, get your scissors out. It's the same thing. I just use the paper cutter just because it goes a little bit quicker. The first thing I wanted to do was measure these composition notebooks, and they measure 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. So I wanted to make the outside of my traveler's notebook, I wanted to make it 7 1/2 by 5 to allow for all of the folding and to allow for an edge around the top and bottom. I really love this mat that I'm using here. I've had it forever. I bought it at Tuesday mornings. And it is so amazing to have because I use it, as you can see, as a ruler all the time. And so what I did was I lined up this clear cutting mat on it, and instead of using my ruler, I'm just using the mat as a ruler. So if you want to invest in one of these, I mean, especially at like Tuesday mornings, you can get them for really cheap. I'm sure you could get them at your other stores like Michael's and Hobby Lobby if you want to use a coupon, but I would definitely invest in one of these mats to use if you're going to be doing any kind of crafting. They're just so fantastic to have. So I'm just going to recheck my measurements, and I'm going to make sure that this is the piece that I cut at 7 1/2. And now I'm going to measure the opposite way to cut it at 5. So my final outside piece again will measure 7 1/2 by 5. This is going to be the cover for the traveler's notebook. This is what's going to keep it from getting damaged if you're putting it in your purse or you're just grabbing it and taking it with you. These chopping mats are perfect because they act like a cover and they keep it safe. So now all I'm going to do is take this piece that measures 7 1/2 by 5, and I'm going to round the corners I don't want it to be sharp, so I'm going to make sure I round these corners. You can do this with a pair of scissors too. You don't need a corner rounder. Just go ahead and just round the corners with a pair of scissors if you don't have one. Now what I'm going to do is get out my bone folder, and I'm actually going to be using my paper cutter to measure and do the scoring on this. Again, you don't need that though. You can just take your ruler and your bone folder or even the back of a butter knife and just score your plastic that way. So what I'm doing is I'm going in 3 3/8 from each side on that long side. So the 7.5 inch side, I'm going in 3 3/8 and scoring. That way you're creating a traveler's notebook that measures 3 3/8 on each side and then gives you about 3/4 of an inch in the middle for the notebooks to go in. So I'm just going to bend it. This plastic does not snap. That's the great thing about this. It'll just bend. So just work that line that you did with your bone folder, and then you go in from the other side and do 3 3/8. And again, that'll leave you about 3/4 of an inch as a spine. I created this little sketch for you just in case somebody else needed a visual, because when I was saying it, I didn't quite understand even what I was saying. So if you look at this, it's the 7.5 inches by 5 inches, and I'm going in and scoring at 3 3/8 of an inch from each side. So next up is going to be this gift bag that I'm using to be the outside of my traveler's notebook. And it is going to measure 7 1/4 by 4 3/4. That way that also has a little edge around it to keep it protected, because this is just paper, to keep it protected inside that plastic covering. So again, this is going to measure 7 1/4 by 4 3/4. We're going to do the same thing for this piece of paper. We're going in 3 3/8 from each side and scoring it. I then round the edges on this one, and I'm done with this for right now. So I'm going to set it aside. So now I'm going to measure my composition notebooks, and these composition notebooks are 4.5, and then they're about 3, I want to say 3, yeah, about 3 across on the front. You need about 3 inches across on the front. So what I did was I just took it even 5. So I'm going to cut my pieces of paper to cover the composition books at 4.5 by 5, and that gives me the ability to wrap this paper around to create a nice edge on the composition books. You'll see what I'm saying here in just a second. like to go in with these tape runners and do a line around the edge. But first I'm going to get a scrap piece of this plastic to put inside the cover so I don't get that glue everywhere. So I'm just going to run this tape runner around the edge, and then I'll use the wet Aleene's tacky glue on the inside of it. And when I lay this piece of paper on, when I cover these notebooks, I like to go right at the spine there where that black stuff is, because if you try to go over the black spine there, it doesn't stick too well. So I like to measure it right up against that black spine right there. So when you go in with your bone folder and just give that a little crease, it wraps right neatly around there and it looks so nice. You don't have any jagged edges or anything. And then I'll just go in with my corner rounder and chomp those rounded edges. Again, you can do it with a pair of scissors if you don't have a corner rounder, and it looks very nice. So I'm going to continue to do this for all of the notebooks, and then I will have all the fronts and backs covered. So here's all three of the composition notebooks all covered front and back, and now it is time to put this together. Please don't mind my husband's hand popping in and out of screen every once in a while. He's just annoying. So he gets bored and has to come over and annoy me no matter what I'm doing. So that's what that's all about. So I'm just going to clean up the edges of these and make sure that everything looks nice before I put this all together. I'm adding this tag that came with one of the gift bags as just an embellishment on the front. Now to put everything together, I'm going to use these hair elastics. And I'm just using pink because I feel like that's what matches the color scheme. And so as you can see, I'm just going to slide these on, and I'm going to use 3 of them. These are going to be the bands that hold in our notebooks. And this is why we made the piece of paper just a tad bit smaller than that piece of plastic, because we want the plastic to hold the these hair elastics instead of the paper, because the paper would bend. So we've got 3 of them now, and we're just going to put it on the binding, and that's what's going to bind all of these little notebooks together. So now I take my composition notebooks, I find the center of them, and I simply slide them in there. I love the way it turned out. I am noticing that there are some overhang with the paper, so I'm just going to go in with a pair of scissors, trim that off, and re-round my edges to make sure that everything fits nicely. But all in all, this project turned out so nice. I ended up readjusting the length of this keychain just because I didn't like the length that it was, but you can easily do that with just a pair of needle nose pliers and these little chain rings. They come off really easy. So anyway, I hope that you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope that you can get to your local Dollar Tree and pick up all the items needed to make this. I've really had fun with these traveler's notebooks, and I hope that you get to make one of your own. And don't forget to follow me over on Instagram. Tag me in your pictures if you make one. Show me what you've made. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. I hope to see you tomorrow for another DIY. And until then, take care. Bye.